Do it.
Well, thank you. Thank you
Sure.
everyone for coming in. I'm Travis Pompasello. I'm the head of growth and innovation at Amalgama. Today, we're going to be speaking with some friends of mine who are real thought leaders in this space. We're speaking about the business of fitness in the age of AI, navigating trends, opportunities, and challenges in the rapid evolving industry. I think we all agree that as one of the most consumer-facing industries on the planet, tech and innovation tend to lead these areas. And to that end, I'd like to introduce our guests. And I'll let them say a little bit about themselves. You know, a good friend of mine for a long time, Jim Kroll from the Sage House, co-founder of the Sage House, is joining us with his partner Jason. Guys, if you want to give a quick introduction, that would be amazing.
Yeah, it's great to see everybody, and some of you guys I've seen before, so it's good to see you again. Just think of us as fitness and health and fitness investors and consultants. So we think investment first, but we work with companies in both sides of it. So we only focus on fitness and wellness, and so this emergence of AI is, you can imagine, everywhere in our conversations right now. So it's been a really interesting topic to see how companies are thinking about it internally and externally, because they are really working both sides of the equation. Jason, go ahead.
Yeah, I thought I'd be cute and ask ChatGPT to help me with an introduction, but I didn't get it out quick enough. But yeah, like Jim said, Jason Crow, prior to Jim and Jenna, our other co-founder, starting the Sage House a little over a year ago, I was the head of business development and partnerships for Precision Nutrition. And then prior to that, spent 15 years in what I call reactive healthcare. So pharma companies, medical diagnostic firms, and a pediatric hospital here in Toronto. So there's always been this kind of evolution of how technology is integrated into all of those worlds. And I think we're really at this really fascinating inflection point where artificial intelligence and machine learning are really kind of smashing together and hopefully making some dramatic changes in people's lives. So super excited to talk today.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason. And lastly, I'll introduce my friend and colleague, Gonzalo. Gonzalo, a little bit about you.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you, everyone. I'm Gonzalo. I'm one of the co-founders here at Amalgama. I co-founded Amalgama 10 years ago. We are a digital agency. We basically help entrepreneurs and companies build digital products from scratch to growth. And throughout all these 10 years, I've been developing different roles, mainly in Agile, in methodology and product. I'm an athlete enthusiast. I consider myself as an athlete enthusiast. I like to practice a lot of sports, and I'm very intrigued about how sports and fitness is going through the age of AI. So I'm happy to be here talking with Jason, Jim, and Travis.
Great. Thank you, Gonzalo. I also want to point out for all of us in the Northeast, Gonzalo's calling in from beautiful Buenos Aires, where the weather is pretty spectacular right about now. So I think we should start. And Jason, you said a little bit of it in your intro, and Jim and Gon, we've been speaking about it. And I think one of the things we should clarify or level set out of the gate is sort of this different. What's the differentiators between algorithms, machine learning, artificial intelligence? We know our conversation today is, reacting to how ChatGPT and other AI platforms are shaping the industry. But I do think there's a lot of consumer or normal confusion around the differences between those things. So, Jim, I'll open it to you first. Maybe you could give a little. What we've seen in the industry first with algorithms and machine learning, and now what's transitioning into AI and the differences there.
I like the word you used, level set. I come at this from about a kindergarten level, guys. So in terms of building artificial intelligence, I'm not your guy. So I can certainly speak to how it's being deployed and generally what the differences are, which for us is what we need. And then we might have, CTO level people go in and look at the tech. But we hear the term AI all the time. What we deem AI is software that can actually learn and improve based on being trained, as opposed to an algorithm that essentially does one thing. So AI would be a series of algorithms, if you will, to create an improvable platform, essentially. So right now we're seeing a lot of folks who have built AI engines, and now they are actually looking at potentially plugging into OpenAI because the data sets are so vast and the amount of information that it consumes is so vast. So most companies that we have seen describing the use of AI is not actually AI. It's algorithms that automate things, which is great, but it's not true AI. So I'd say we start there from a let's all get on the same page standpoint.
Yeah, exactly. Well, to that end, and I'll throw this to you, Jason. I mean, Jim alluded to it. What are some of the bigger trends? Well, let's back up a little bit. We had different trends prior to the ChatGPT news cycle, and now we see a lot of reactive trends. And super curious what you're seeing trend wise in fitness, but maybe in both tech and non-tech, because they're in a funny way, hardware always leads the piece. And I read a great analogy about Uber, like the hardware is drivers and cars, right? And in fitness, it's gyms and coaches. So and then all these things react to these trends. So what are you seeing as trends with people you're speaking to and clients and potential clients?
Yeah, so I think like Jim said, I think we're having a number of conversations with people that are taking advantage of the number of news cycles that AI is getting and kind of using it in their to their advantage when they're trying to, specifically when they're talking to Jim and I about investment, about all of their AI models, which end up really being really just being algorithms. I think what we're starting to see is ways of taking the highly repetitive cognitive tasks that come with in the fitness industry, particularly with folks that are doing personal training, group fitness instruction, leading groups, that kind of thing, and automating that to create personalized experiences for consumers that are more engaging and lead to, quite frankly, what so many gym operators or gym fitness companies are looking for, or fitness companies are looking for, which is just retention, holding on to a person's interest and attention towards that class or that program or whatever they're on, so they keep kind of moving along a continuum. So I think from a trend perspective, I think we're seeing AI being used to be able to take, again, those repetitive tasks and make them more efficient for fewer people, because kind of taking a broad step back on the industry, post-pandemic, one of the things that we saw the biggest change, in my opinion, in the fitness industry was a mass exodus of professionals out of the industry when a lot of gyms were shut down. And we haven't seen that same group kind of migrate back into fitness. And we also haven't seen it backfill, from younger folks coming in. So there's this almost necessity now, especially amongst operators, to provide ways of delivering that kind of personalized service by leveraging technology, because there no longer is as many humans to be able to do it. So I would say that would be the biggest thing right now. And then something I'd love to touch on later on is, to Jim's point about data sets, I don't think we've even scratched the surface of the amount of data that a typical gym would generate today, just from the connected equipment that is available, but also other equipment that will slowly over the next couple of years come online, that will produce massive amounts of data sets on how people are utilizing equipment and the success or not that they're having with that equipment, and how that subsequently can further personalized programs for them in the future. So again, we're at this amazing inflection point, and I couldn't think of a better place to be right now.
A couple quick examples just to put a face to what people are doing right now. We've probably looked at 8 companies that are doing some version of automated program design on both the nutrition and the workout building side. They are typically all based in some sort of essentially principles of strength training and or endurance training, etc. And the good ones are fully connected into wearables, potentially blood testing, DNA testing, etc. so that they give you the right starting point. And then as you actually do workouts and generate feedback like Jason's talking about, the program automatically updates based on those principles. That is now going to be table stakes now, right? And so I don't, writing a program, in my opinion, is a complete waste of time. And I say that coming out of coaching education. I was the CEO of a company called OPEX who taught people how to write programs. There's no point in writing the same program by hand a whole bunch of times anymore at all. Yes, you want to put your brain into the relationship and how somebody is experiencing that, but we're working with companies right now who are using AI in communication engines to understand human sentiment. You send them a message and the system understands how they feel about it. So imagine the connection between a program and a human connection that understands what the person is actually thinking, not dissimilar to the early days of the internet, when you might go to a focus group and say, how do you feel about this? And people would tell you one thing, but their actions and their words would actually indicate something else. So there is beginning, Jason and I often talk about the idea of feedback loops, right? AI will allow for an actual feedback loop in the fitness and health cycle of people. And a quick additional example on the internal side, another company that we're working with has built a productivity engine because they deliver large scale programs to many, many, many thousands of people. And it takes their team 20 hours a week to input the programs correctly so that the experience is the correct way that they want it to be. That's now going to go to 0 minutes based on a simple plugin from OpenAI. 20 hours a week to 0 in like 2 weeks worth of work from one person. So the internal and external productivity, like just productivity alone, is going to be unbelievable in the industry. And the connection point back to the feedback loops for fitness and health are going to be unbelievable. Or I should say they are now unbelievable.
Yeah, and that opens up so many questions. But immediately I start to think about the customer side, right? All that scaling, all that growth is incredible for the coach, for the business owner, and of course has a big upside for the consumer as well on efficiencies. But Gan, I'll throw this out to you as someone who builds these products regularly. Where are we getting that balance of like human versus machine, where the customer is feeling, one, they're getting these efficiencies and these benefits by in this case the coach being able to provide a better service, but also still feeling that they have an authentic relationship.
Sure. I want to grab something that Jim just mentioned, is that the importance of understanding what we actually need to build, right? That we are becoming much more efficient building programs, and there are certain skills that are becoming more relevant nowadays. Understanding the real user's needs, right? So roles and skills around product management, user experience, anthropologist, psychology are becoming more relevant because we need to understand what the user is really willing to receive, right? Because we can build a super robust product. Let's put aside AI. Before AI, we could have built whatever product super robust, and maybe no one's want to use it, right? I want to bring up a little bit about the human aspect of this, because I know we don't have to go against AI. We don't have to go against technology. I think AI is like is going to be running over a lot of content, a lot of what Jason, Jim were saying, repetitive tasks, right? But still, I believe that there's a human aspect here where where there's about accountability. When you go to the therapist or you train with a fitness coach, there is like a psychological aspect that makes us perform better, because due to accountability, actually, we don't want to let down another person. We might not care to let down ChatGPT that already built a training session for me. I don't care. but I do care if I let down my trainer or my colleague that's training in pair with me, right? So there's also socializing in the gyms that I guess that most of us train in the gym or train outdoors. Uh, we see this. We see that we socialize with people, and we socialize with our trainers. I think it's a huge opportunity, and I believe that Jason mentioned this, where we can leverage technology. We can leverage AI to give us, so we can perform better, so we can provide a better service, better products, instead of going against, just considering AI as an ally. That's my humble opinion on this.
Jim, Jason, I know you both have responses to this, so please
So,
start.
I completely agree. I think the thing that, if you think about, if we just honestly take a step back and say to ourselves, 5 years ago, what was the role of the personal trainer, group fitness instructor in a gym? It was two things. It was accountability and it was personalization, right?
Yeah.
And you know, exactly like you just said, it's easy to say to a computer no. It's easy to swipe off a push notification. It's harder to look someone in the eyes and say no, I'm not doing that. The personalization part, in a lot of, for a lot of reasons, and Jim kind of said this off the top, when we talk about all these data sets that are going to come into these systems, will help a lot with the personalization and the efficiency on those repetitive cognitive tasks. One of the conversations that we're having with one of our club operator clients is shifting the way that they're hiring individuals and training. So no longer is it about how can we teach you, like, again, this is coming from precision nutrition and continuing education. No longer is it about this idea of let's teach you as much as we can about being a great personal trainer and movement mechanics and nutrition and all those things. Now it's let's spend all the time on training you how to be a great human, so that you can take the information that comes out of any of these systems, and we don't have to give them specific names, but any of these systems or the combination of, and say, how do we take that information and work with another human to be that accountability tool? So again, there's a number of folks that we're working with that are already starting to think about the new role of the fitness professional kind of going forward. So I completely agree. These kind of soft skills, especially for folks that are coming up right now and thinking about joining in the industry, will be the differentiator, as opposed to what it was with the past with someone who had deep scientific knowledge on kinesiology or any of those things. It's really going to be on soft skills, executive function, that kind of thing that'll be the real differentiator for the foreseeable future.
Well, and Travis, to your point about the end customer, they're going to demand a significantly better experience.
Yeah.
And I would argue that most coaches, again, coming from coaching background in industry, are not yet prepared to deliver that good of an experience. So I still think there absolutely is a strong place for education in this world. But to Jason's point, I think the education is going to need to be created and deployed differently. I think there's going to be a lot more micro learning, small touch points on what education means, so that somebody can utilize a system like, I mean, pick a name, right? Wearables are getting smarter, blood testing is getting smarter, DNA testing is getting smarter, workout building is getting smarter, nutrition's getting smarter, blah, 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 blah. You're going to have to understand what all that shit means. But most coaches, I'm just being frank, most coaches won't spend the time to actually build a quality and duplicatable system with which to run people through.
Mm-hmm.
And so the models of business absolutely are going to have to shift to accept this technology in. And then I think they're going to have to be bucketed into the right price point for the service that's actually garnered, right? So if you want my time to be your white glove concierge coach, yeah, that's going to be like $1,500 a month. But if you want a system to say, attaboy, good job for doing your workout, that's $1 a month now. And so this middle ground is going to be very battle entrenched, right? There's going to be a lot of nonsense happening in the middle ground. I think, like almost everything that scales, There's going to be a value portion, and there's going to be a high-end white glove portion. And in the middle is going to be people that don't build scalable systems.
That's a really, really good point. And I really want to get to the owner operator side of this conversation for sure. Jim, you make me think of something very quickly. We as business owners always have hypothesis of how people are going to use these things, but they always tell us themselves how they're going to use them. Whether they're, what they're the early adopters always give us the best information, and then we see the trends happening. We've had conversations amongst ourselves about what we're already seeing, right, with this what we call the bolt-on approach. We can speak a little bit about sort of what consumers are doing, and then segue into what their expectations are going to be for the operator in the future as a result of that, and how the fitness owner or business owner can respond to that and not get left in the dust.
I have an assumption on this, and I'm curious to see how this plays out. I think that all of us by default would love if our entire fitness experience was contained inside of our iPhone or Android app. In one place, all of my stuff exists in one place. The problem with that is that those are very, very different disciplines of fitness if you're defining comprehensive as relationship, accountability, nutrition, program design, brick and mortar experience, payment for all of my hybrid fitness experiences. Those are very different things. So I don't believe that the bulk share of the industry will be able to produce all of those in a one-stop shop. What I do think, I know this is happening, is that the APIs and SDKs are getting so good that you're going to have base level systems that sit in an iPhone app, and people are going to go where they are most captivated by a brand. So the software is going to support the brand that people want to follow, and those brands are going to continuously develop comprehensive experiences that have these feedback loops, that have a $1 a month option and a $1,500 a month option, right? Software will allow the captive customer base competitive advantage to be, again, garnered by these companies. And so you're not going to go to an influencer fitness person and they're not going to be the best software builder, but they are going to have damn good software now because people can bolt software onto other existing platforms.
Yep, for sure. Gonzalo, I'll ask you, right? What I'm hearing from Jim, it's not just about building great tech, because great tech will be out there. People will build great tech. It's going to come down to the customer experience, and what they want. If you wouldn't mind speaking a little bit about that.
Yeah. I totally agree on Jim's thesis. I think there will be more and more of these solutions. However, I'm curious actually how these companies are gonna be bolt on in this one solution and how competitive it's gonna react to that, right? Similar to other aggregators, platforms for traveling and food delivery. A couple of years ago, I'm talking about food delivery and streaming services that they went all to one because they were aggregators at once. But then competition wanted to differentiate. Users are different, and they start appearing new platforms again. It was like an up and down of that. So I believe that at first it will happen what Jim's saying, that it's all going in to one place, and probably then it will spread out again.
Well,
but again, it's an opinion, and I don't know.
Well, I want to be careful on how I'm getting perceived. There's no way that there's going to be one end-all system in fitness and wellness. No chance, in my opinion, because people require such different experiences in a very highly emotionally charged way of life. Everybody responds differently to a stimulus of working out or eating differently or lifestyle changes. What I'm getting at is that OpenAI as one example, right? Lots of people will plug into OpenAI to derive the experience of their app, but they're going to
Exactly.
serve the end customer based on what the end customer wants their fitness experience to be. So, look at how big Netflix is and then ask yourself, what's the biggest fitness company? Let's just say, for all intents and purposes, it was Peloton before the utter collapse, right? Like, today is Peloton's what, a $4 billion company? That's nothing in the grand scheme of the total world economics. So you look at fitness and wellness, there's going to be multiple players that are out there, and they will absolutely lever some of this big technology to create the user experience for their customers.
Totally. Yeah, I agree. I think that's actually the fascinating thing of this, that even though OpenAI or any other platform of artificial intelligence is understanding all the data users provide, it's giving statistical results, right? And we don't get in the same bucket. We are 7 billion people with more than 85 billion neurons and super chaotic, not with a standardized way of thinking. So that's why I think there will be a lot of different competitors providing compelling solutions, right? And there's a lot of opportunity, not only for products, but for services that can leverage that technology to
For
provide a better
sure.
service.
One of our investment theses is that we want theses. I don't know what the word is. We're just going to go with it. Is that we want to be invested in what we deem infrastructure. We want to be in the companies that theoretically can power all of these experiences, because we believe that those are much more scalable than individual experiences. Now, don't get me wrong, individual experiences can create significantly large amounts of cash flow. And I guess I should be clear, right? Like, for a smaller business, right? We're not talking about Facebook free cash flow or, AWS free cash flow. We're talking about fitness free cash flow. But we know many influencers that have really, really, really strong cash flowing businesses that lever other technologies. That is a great vertical for business, because if you have a captive customer base, you have higher gross margins. Higher gross margins mean you can invest more back into your customer. But what do you need? You need infrastructure to power your experiences. Right. So there's definitely going to be builders required for plugging these things together and creating those magical user experiences. Imagine fitness from Disney versus fitness from OnlyFans. Imagine how different that has to look, right? Like, I know it's a crazy example, but imagine the difference between the two of those. Like, no chance they're going to serve the same audience. You know what I mean? But the power, like the underlying piping of it, will likely be the same tech in 3 years, in my opinion.
Yeah. And sorry.
No, please go ahead.
No, and not only that, is that we are different every second, right? And sometimes I want efficiency, and sometimes I want to talk to someone, and it's like we're changing and evolving all the time. So we need different experiences.
But and I think what's most interesting about that, and if there's not an OnlyFans for fitness, I think we should all have the goal off this call to come up with that. That was a company name I was not expecting to hear today. But
yeah, there's a line in every webinar, and this is Jim's already claimed the crown.
Exactly. But I think one of the things that, Gonzalo, that you say about having 7 billion people and we're all different, but at the same time, we're all 7 billion of the same species. And one of the things that connects all of us is this idea of community, which Jim and I kind of speak extensively about. And one of the things, as we look at AI and we keep talking about personalization and going to the individual and meeting that person where they're at and creating a journey to get them where they want to go. And it's fascinating that we're getting there, but at the same time, figuring out how to equally create community for people to be a part of, because we know that community in and of itself is one of those accountability tools and one of those things that makes someone feel safe, supported, secure, and included. So, like, we always love using the example that CrossFit and Zumba are two phenomenal examples of companies that, from a fitness methodology perspective, couldn't be on couldn't be on further opposite ends of the spectrum. But the thing that connects the two of them is they have community built into the product at a ground level. And I'm going to save my whole story. I had went on this fascinating kind of trip to see the difference in the ways that humans domesticated horses versus dogs. And I'll save that for another time. But it shows that the idea of community is actually more deeply ingrained in who we are versus the idea of progress and efficiency. So, what we're trying to have conversations with people about is they're thinking about integrating AI and hyper personalization for consumer experience, is to, at the exact same time, figure out how to equally make that person a part of a group. So again, they feel supported through that journey. So a lot of interesting challenges ahead.
One example that has always brought this home for me is back in my OPEX days, we were personalized fitness coaches. And so it was a one-to-one coach client experience. And we broke down what a coach needed to be able to get to from an efficiency standpoint to the minute. So if you couldn't write a program, a week-long program in 12 minutes per week, you were not going to be able to scale at all to earn a real living. If you weren't able to communicate within about 15 minutes a month for all of your messages, blah, 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 that was too long. You were not efficient enough. And it just comes down to unit economics at the end. And to all of your guys' points, this is about action, right? So a coach won't stay in the industry and won't continue to coach if it takes them 8 hours a month to earn $42, right? So what I think that these systems are really going to allow for is clarity on where people are spending time and what's effective. And I'm saying the systems that think about how they're deploying this technology. So without that clarity, how in the world am I supposed to know if I'm actually being effective at growing a business? I don't care if you're brick and mortar gym, if you are an online coach or online dietitian, it doesn't matter. You have to fall into unit economics. And I've seen enough coaches, Jason too at PN, we've seen enough coaches to know if you can't put these types of tools in, you're going to churn out of the industry pretty quickly. It's a 3-year window without that efficiency. No kidding. I've seen it thousands of times. And so I think these tools, right, and the software systems that allow a coach to plug in day one and be working is key. The software systems that force a coach to spend 18 hours building up whatever, not going to work. They need to be in day one, a program auto-created for them to send to a client, easy communication, simple video, both two-way video and on-demand video or sending video components. Without that, a coach is not going to be efficient enough because they're going to fall into the middle ground. I mean, and when I'm talking white glove, guys, I'm expecting that coaches are going to buy people's food and have it delivered to their house. Now, keep in mind, all this stuff is becoming automated too. So in my opinion, a coach should just lever technology to do that stuff. But that's white glove, not sending a program or showing up for a 60-minute personal training session. That's table stakes at this point. It's going to be a coach shows value when the client needs them. AI should help the coach recognize when that moment exists. Look at sentiment, look at program builders, look at automated tracking of results. It should flag, hey, Suzanne just had something that looks really different than what it usually looks like. You should probably reach out to her. That is incredibly valuable. Not just a simple program. That's table stakes. So go ahead. Sorry.
And from a customer experience perspective, if Suzanne all of a sudden gets that reach out from her coach saying, hey, here's what I noticed, I'm concerned, like you've just locked in that customer. Again, going back to my point on retention, you've now locked that person in with you.
And so here's how it's being deployed in real life right now. One of the companies we work with is called Verb, and that's the sentiment, the communication and sentiment engine. They are testing. It's like, do we send an automated message first to see if there's a response? and then the response cues the human to get into the conversation, they know that the human is absolutely required somewhere. To Gon's point, right? It depends on the person when the coach is needed.
Yeah.
And so the system needs to help the human understand, when do I commit my time to this? And you can call me rigid or whatever, but this comes down to unit economics, because I know a coach is out of the industry in 3 years if they can't be efficient enough. I don't care how big their customers' problems are. If it takes 8 hours a month for a customer, they're not earning enough money, they're out. Same with the gyms.
Yeah, yeah. And we're at this sort of moment where we have 20 minutes left, and one of the things I want to address for our business owners on this call, or coach entrepreneurs, I guess there is sort of this like, holy shit moment. I've got to start investing in technology. I've got to learn about technology, or I'm going to get left in the dust, or as you said, Jim, it's not going to burn out and not be efficient and not be able to scale or keep up with the competition. What advice can we offer? I mean, where do you begin?
Do you mind if I jump in first? Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead, Jim. Yeah, any of you guys, please.
So I'll give you guys an example. I'm an example guy today. So, anyways, we are working on a brick and mortar concept right now, which we expect to franchise. And inside of that brick and mortar concept, we are going to test aggressively the use of customer used technology for assessment, meaning no coach needed for any of the assessment process. All that technology is built, right? It's just a matter of how do we get the customer to understand and lever the technology. That's the question. So in our eyes, guys, we are using the technology to enhance the in-gym experience and to enhance the relationship asynchronously outside of the gym. So in my mind, what you want to be doing is you want to lever technology to reduce the time that you need to spend doing repetitive things, i.e., I don't need to do an FMS test for somebody anymore. And that I might have just ruffled some feathers, so forgive me for that. But there's really good technology now that can either be computer vision based or non-computer vision based, that drives everything into a movement analysis platform that can auto update workout programs, that can auto update recovery programs, etc., just based on somebody doing a couple of movements. And it's wildly accurate. There's technology today for computer vision based body fat testing that is 96% as accurate as a DEXA machine. And it could theoretically cost you $3 for a test or less. Like, in my opinion, that stuff is going to be table stakes in 12 months. And so I would absolutely lever, and maybe you try one thing, right? Hey, it's really important for our customers, and I guess I won't say this just because it's not public yet, but if you have a mantra in your coaching business or gym or whatever you are building, and that mantra has something to do with, looking great, right? Like we want to look great. Cool. Well, how are you proving that?
Yeah.
That's where the technology comes in. So it's you creating a more captive customer base based on the technology showing that you are helping them reach that goal. If you have a mantra of fun, how are you quantifying fun? Right? Like, all this stuff is now quantifiable. And I'm saying, like, it's not science to quantify fun. Did you have fun today? Awesome. I'm putting that into your system so that I know that you are increasing your fun level, as you're coming to the gym. It sounds silly, but right, like, if you connect people back to, hey, you told me 3 weeks ago you're having a lot of fun and it looks like you've had a bad day. There's the moment, right? There's the moment that one human interaction will completely change the lifetime value of a customer. But if you don't have that feedback loop, you're guessing. And we all know that when you start scaling up, part-time $20 an hour coaches, good luck.
Yeah,
you need to have feedback loops as the owner, as the GM, as the owner, as the operator of a franchise, whatever your business model is. You have to have that sort of information about people's experience.
We have a great question that kind of dovetails off what you're saying, Jim, around experience, because it's an area of fitness we haven't spoke about. This question comes from Cheyenne, and he's asking a question of how do you see up and coming tech advancements helping or potentially hurting group fitness experiences? We've spoken a lot about individual coaches and programming, but group fitness, as we know, is a very community-driven experience and all about connections and those things. So would love to hear what the three of you have to say or have opinions about that.
I'll go after.
Jason, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I would look at it in the exact same way. I think there's a number of companies that are doing some really interesting stuff around group fitness, particularly around sensors and data capture in real time. And Jim, you heard Jim say kind of computer vision already a couple of times, and I think that's one of the elements of that, where we can determine in real time how the program is going. So we all know, we have all been in a group fitness class where there's the person at the top of the fitness spectrum and the person at the bottom of the fitness spectrum. And we're leading it up to the instructor to basically guide this group through that program. And good instructors might, dynamically switch the program with the room. Bad ones are just going to just run straight through, and the person typically that's the bottom is getting smoked. I've been the person at the bottom. So the thing is that one of the things I think we're starting to see is, again, dynamically in real time, group fitness, and this is going to sound interesting, even though we're all in the same room, we can be on our own version of whatever that is that we're doing. So I'll give an example from a data capture perspective. Jim and I in the fall were in Malaysia and Thailand meeting our friends at Evolution Wellness, and they have a concept, a boutique concept over there called FireFit. And essentially what it is, it's a modular boutique design, but one of the programs that they have is a boxing program. So you get in and it's like a HIIT boxing type thing. And they have one of the many connected boxing bags there that counts the number of strikes. So it gamifies the entire experience for folks. Now, again, this is pretty V1 type stuff. It's just counting the number of strikes. But there is the opportunity there for me as the person hitting the bag, if I'm hitting slower than strikes and power, strikes and power, to in real time change the individual program that I'm having at bag number 5 versus Jim, who's hitting that bag significantly harder. So we're all having the group fitness, again, back to community experience and the excitement that comes with being and sweating in the same room together, but my program is actually curated just for me. So I think that's one of the things that we're going to start to see in the group fitness world. And then a number of other, and we won't go super deep, connected experiences where it's not just the people in the same room, you're actually competing with other folks at other centers in other places around the world at the same time. So very kind of Pelotonish.
Yes to everything Jason just said, with one additional comment. I think the experiences need to get simpler. Mm-hmm. And so, like Jason is saying, I didn't have to do anything in Southeast Asia other than hit the damn bag. Awesome, right? The TVs are already set up. My name, and number and score is already set up. I just hit the bag. Great experience. If I have to put on a wrist wearable, a chest strap, a helmet, I got to sign in every time I come in, no thanks, right? And so I think the conversation needs to be, who is my customer? What is the experience that they want from me? And what is the type of technology, not even the specific name, but the type of technology that would help them experience that more richly? And so I can't get more specific than that without knowing the specific customer and experience that you are attempting to create. But the technology is getting simpler and more woven into the fabric of these experiences. That, I think, is going to change things. And then, right, all of that data needs to then feed back asynchronously to the person with a connection point to the brand or to a coach, so that they can say, attaboy, you did a great job today. I'll see you tomorrow. And that's based on their schedule. And so it's an automated message based on the next time that they're coming in, right? And just imagine the next bolt-on of nutrition and whatever else as you go. I'm telling you guys, these programs are baked out and the systems are beginning to bolt these pieces of technology onto them. The experiences will be significantly better in 6 months. They are still second inning of a 9-inning game, significantly better in 6 months.
Yeah, I wanna point out something that Jim was saying before, and you repeated now, that the fact that we need to have other collective data and use it to improve and use it so we can interfere in someone's individual or group performance. You can see in this kind of gyms where you train together, let's say CrossFit, and you can choose my personalized program because I'm into this program and this other, but they're just there helping you, but they don't know actually how you're performing, not only in that situation, but days before, how you are at home, how you are with your friends, how you are at work. So if we have different ways to collect all that data and process it, then the coach can interfere and help you change some habits or whatever, right? So that's the way we can leverage technology. We can use it in our favor, right?
Can I saw the question in the chat about 50.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up, Jim. I mean, are there niches that are outside of the scope?
No, short answer. 50 plus, there's a lot of technology coming down the pipe that will directly help 50 plus. If we're talking about online 50 plus, that to me, I would triple, quadruple, quintuple down on. It's the simplicity of connecting people to one another digitally. So we are seeing multiple video companies that are now directly connecting to Zoom so that all somebody needs to do is click one button and it opens everything that they need. Anything that the coach has said to them in the past is up on the screen, right? Or, by the way, it can just open up a one-to-one conversation with the coach. So that level of simplicity is there. The AI of all of it, in my opinion, needs to be a very, 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 very simple way of saying, what do I need to do to interact with this 50-plus-year-old? In 5 years, the 50-plus-year-old is going to think like today's 35-year-old. So I think that you have to be thinking about these things because they're just going to be more used to this technology and more demanding of it. But the simplicity of it is extremely important. We've worked with multiple companies working with 50-plus. All of them are trying to quantify things simply in order to make their customers' experience better, both synchronously, whether this is in person or online, and asynchronously. So in person, we're seeing a lot of interesting technology from a cognition and a reaction and a balance standpoint. So that technology is directly being placed in the every session user experience. So it's not about, back squats and bench press, right? It's about what do you actually need and how do you get active. And online, this is where a lot of the video technology and the simplicity of getting people into the video technology is coming into play, mixed with messaging, et cetera, et cetera. Also, though, one of the communications companies we work with, they do text only because people answer texts, right? So imagine trying to get a 50-plus person to download an app, use an app, and then communicate through the in-app message service. So sometimes you just simply have to remove some of the technology barrier, but I'm kind of getting at it might require technology to remove a technology barrier.
And I think there's something in that last sentence that Jim said, if for the person, and I'm not sure who it was that asked the question, but if you haven't done so yet, sign up for GPT Plus and basically replicate yourself. And I want to be clear on that. Don't use GPT as, a fancy Google. Literally prompt it by telling it who you want it to be. Tell it everything about yourself, even things that you aspired to do, degrees that you don't have. tell it all those things about yourself, and then start asking it what to do with what it would do with a particular client. And I think, quite frankly, and Jim and I have had a number of conversations about this, you will be blown away at what that thing spits back. And you will find that, and I had this very weird interaction with it, with GPT-4 the other day, where 5 or 6 back and forths in, I felt like I was talking to a person, because it knew, like it understood where the next line of questioning would go and was asking me, and then I would feed it a little more information, and we were having a dialogue. It wasn't just a tell me this and it spits it out. Like, it was a fluid conversation. So as step one for that 50+ audience, that's what I would say. See what comes out of it, and it might help you actually with those individuals by removing technology to use technology.
And to that point, use technology to make yourself more productive, to give them a better service for what you're already doing. They might
right.
never see that piece of technology, but it might make you significantly faster at working with them.
Yeah, and I'm remiss we never got to it, but there's so much for the business owner here about using it, especially as you teach it to be you and teach it about your service, using it for marketing, for communications, for advertising, for promotions, all these areas that are just going to be super helpful for business owners to scale their business, even for coaches for outreach, which is just going to be phenomenal.
So there's a company that we're working with, or I guess we might work with them. They are in the video business, and what they do is they make working with video incredibly faster. So instead of you actually cutting footage and piecing things together, you simply write in, this is what I want to create, and it goes into your video library, finds it, and creates it for you.
And stitches it together.
Amazing.
Think about
Huge
how much
saver.
time that would save.
Yeah, absolutely tremendous.
As a real example, you as a coach could say, give me a 15-minute strength-based program that does not include jumping jacks or seated rows. That's the prompt. And then it just spits out a video of the entire program so that a user can follow along. Plus, it also spits out a shortened version that can be posted on social. Like, you just took hours of activity and turned it into something that took a total of 20 seconds. Like, it's fascinating.
Amazing. Well, we're come to the last 5 minutes. Lily, I see your question in the chat, and I apologize that we don't have time to get to it. But if you reach out to me directly, make sure to get back to you in text. I will be with the guys, and we'll socialize it and reply back to you and get you an answer. Closing remarks. Let's go around the horn and maybe offer some closing remarks or advice or points or additional points of view that maybe we didn't get to, or that maybe we're passionate about. Jason, why don't we start with you, and then Guy, and we'll close out with Jim.
Yeah,
Sure.
It's easy for folks in the industry to like sound all these alarm bells about this technology that's going to take over, and what are we going to do, and that kind of thing. I look at it as the complete inverse. This is an inflection point again for this industry, where I don't think we're going to have a net loss of jobs. We're going to have a dramatic net increase. And the reason being is we're now going to be able to meet more people and bring them into this health and wellness kind of arena that maybe in the past were intimidated by the entire thing. They didn't necessarily want to expose themselves and be vulnerable in front of another person. And if that's the case, they can do it with a computer. And they didn't like the fact that it was a one-size-fits-all program that they had to follow, like Weight Watchers or something else. Now it's going to be a completely customized journey that they're on, and they can do it in private or public or however they want to do it. So we've seen a bunch of stuff and heard from folks about how concerned they are about the integration of AI into the fitness industry. And I see it as the exact opposite. I think this is going to be a massive moment for the industry. And like I said earlier, I can't think of a better place to be right now.
Amazing. Gonzalo?
Yeah, as a takeaway, you know, we sometimes feel like frightened or threatened by all this AI and massive news around and all the things that can be built right now. I would try to, similar to Jason, I would try to feel it as an opportunity. I would try to use it to leverage my service or my products. Try to think of other ways to disrupt, also to build new things. Not everything is built, you know. Is there are other ways to innovate, leveraging technology. And don't forget that we are selling things to human beings, right? Customer experience is super important. It's the most important thing, I believe, actually. And we have to understand what they really need or will. Okay, that's my takeaway.
Yep. Jim, you want to bring us home?
Yeah, I'll put a slightly different spin on it, as I like to do. I think AI is going to kill a whole bunch of jobs, but I think it's going to bring new jobs into it. And I also think if done well, a lot of new entrants as customers will come into health and fitness, similar to what Jason was saying. Just to hit, what Lily was asking about building an app, do you include the coaching component? I want to finish by saying I think that all of us need to be highly focused on how we are implementing technology and AI. I see a lot of companies who just have sort of an amorphous, I just need to build an app. That is not good enough. You need to know exactly what you want to create, and the app powers that experience. So to Lily's question, I would say, think through what you are doing with your customer, or what you want or need to do with your customer, and ask yourself, do I need a coaching component to this? And then backfill in, do I need to build it now? You might start by building a version of an app that tries to do one thing incredibly well, and then you see how that works for your customer base and you add to it as you go. That's a great way of doing things. Too many people are trying to build the perfect experience on V1, spending $1 million and then realizing nobody gives a shit about their app, right? So I think it's, and I think great companies, like these guys, they will help you walk through how to create that focus. So be very, very focused on what you're going to do. Jason and I talk all the time. What is the one thing we are going to test with AI and quote unquote perfect before we try to do the next thing? So I think a lot of people are going to go deer in the headlights with this and just read a bunch of news stories and do absolutely nothing with it. So get focused.
Yeah, it's great advice, Jim. Well, we're out of time. We could probably go on for hours on this topic. We barely even scratched the surface. Jim, Jason, thanks for joining us. Anyone that wants to learn more about the Sage House can find these guys at thesagehouse.com. I know Jim and Jason both, they will definitely reply back to you should you reach out. And you can find Gonzalo and I at amalgama.co, or of course, on LinkedIn, you can always reach out to us as well. So thank you everyone for coming. Gon, Jason, Jim, thanks so much for doing this today, and look forward to seeing everybody again soon.
Thanks guys. This was great.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.